A very good afternoon, everyone. Once again, thank you all for joining in for today's webinar. We apologize for a little bit of delay here. I'm hoping from beginning of June, this delay shouldn't be there as our automated emails had some problem, and we're going to be fixing it this weekend. Maybe going forward, we'll make sure that there's no delay. Thank you so much for your patience waiting for others to join in. Really appreciate it. This session is being recorded and it will be available on our YouTube platform as early as Monday. And this session is not accredited for any CPD credits, just letting you all know ahead of time so that it's something that we have CPD every alternate week. So last week was a CPD. There's going to be another CPD in the following week. So the topics are not decided yet. It'll be out and ready by Monday in our website for all of you to check. If any of you have any problem hearing me, I request you to use chat window and let us know if you have any hearing problem. In the sense, we could share the phone audio coordinates with you. All right, so the topic for today's session is automate forms. And under automate forms, there typically different types of forms we're going to see. And a couple of them here are handling additional parties and code form automation being the major things. As uLaw has code forms, we produce code forms here. So we also want you to utilize the option of using additional parties to automate your code forms. We're going to be seeing other forms as well, basically other documents as well that can be automated. So we'll probably walk you along what is today's agenda. We're going to see the concept of additional parties. What is actually additional parties and how do you bring that into your code forms, and what value addition does code form automation and document generation bring to your business? There's so much that goes behind it while you try to do it manually versus once you start using an automated tool like uLaw, you'll start understanding how much of a time and how much of data accuracy is seen there. So time is saved, and also along with it, the data that gets generated onto the forms are even more accurate than filling it on your own, and how you can streamline the most important aspect of your business, which is, let's say, right from the beginning, you have retainer letters, you have client intake form, you have client ID verification. There's several forms that you would be using to interact with your client. Those are called client-facing documents. And then there'll be some of them that are part of code forms. And then there'll be more for your office use, which is like, let's say, your deposit slips, maybe your other documents that can print on your own, like financial forms like Form 9As, Intermittent trust transfer. There's so many of these that you can actually fill on your own. And we're going to see how all of those can be done by automating these forms. Okay. Quickly jumping into additional parties. Now, we all know there are different types of practice, right? There are different, areas of practice, rather. And for each and every area of practice, the additional parties that are involved in the matter could be totally different. Like, for example, if you're a real estate lawyer, you'll see a joint retainer as one of the additional parties. And if there's small claims, if it's a small claims matter, you will see probably maybe, applicant, defendant, plaintiff. So, and if you're a SAB lawyer, you will see insurance company and maybe health practitioner, all of these as part of additional parties, right? So the additional parties totally vary, but the concept of them is other than your client who you're servicing to, who are probably additionally related to the file or the matter, is known as additional party. Some way or the other, you'll have to bring their details into the file maybe for quote forms purposes or for invoicing purposes or for settlement payments from insurance companies or referring payment to a health practitioner upon a SABS case for physio, etc. So there's so many things that's involved in here. And these are purely examples of additional parties. They're vast, they're extensive, they're in fact exhaustive list. You cannot just say it's confined to these 10 or 11 examples that's quoted here. But as far as I know, we've added as much as commonly used examples for additional parties over here. So the concept behind automating a form is to ease your, to ease your time or to ease your effort rather. That's obviously converted into time while you're generating these documents, while uLaw can do it for you at the back end and provide you with a quote form or any other forms that can be automated and provided with partial details, if not complete information. Some forms come out complete, some forms come out partially completed so that you can fill out the rest of the information yourself or by your client. So all of them plays a role when it comes to automating forms, and out of which additional party being one of the most important things here. And when it comes to quote forms automation areas, you'll see again, there are different types of quote forms in here, as I already mentioned. You'll have small claims quote forms, you'll have family quote forms, you'll have landlord-tenant board, you'll have POA, HTA, criminal SABs. There's so many that, you have litigation, etc. So all of these, of course, you have different areas of practice, hence you'll have different quote forms required, family and other things. So you'll have to probably, identify, first of all, who's your client? Is your client applicant or a defendant or, based on all of those, then you'll be able to, based on all of those, then you'll be able to identify who's going to be your client. I mean, what is your client going to be and what the opponent party is going to be, which will then be added as an additional party, which will then come up on the quote forms automated with their information. So it is very important to categorize them into the respective group as to whether they're plaintiff, defendant, landlord, tenant, applicant, defendant. There are different types of additional parties that we discussed in the previous slide, which will then be applied as, applied into these respective quote forms. So I'll want to walk you through how quote forms are automated. So let me skip this part here and go into uLaw. And first of all, show you I'll take one contact which is readily available just to save our time. Over here, we have something called Jonathan form. So this is a contact that is completed. If you click on edit, you'll see everything here is entered, mostly the first name, last name, his date of birth, any notes, address, full address, street address, everything. And then work address, home address, phone number, email. If you see, everything here is completely entered. And once that's done, that's one of the main steps you get started with to have a completed form, because it's easy to automate your forms. However, it's not that easy to automate forms to have a complete form, right? Like to have all the addresses, details, emails, phone numbers, respectively, falling into each of these forms. So when you take an example of, let's say, one of the basic forms, like client intake form. So if you click on document generation and say, you want to download a client intake form, or even better, you want to go into the matter and you want to download a client ID verification form under compliance, you need to make sure that all of those documents is completely, all of those information is completely filled out. So all the documents gets automated over here, or rather populated over here, right? So you see first name, last name, address, phone number, email, etc. And the best part is you also see what are the additional parties involved in this file. So when I go back into uLaw and I go into the tab that says additional parties, you see how many of them are kind of, for this particular matter. Let's say this is the client's name is Jonathan Form. It's a fake file, obviously. So this file has different matters, close to 14 matters. And this matter is a small claim matter, so we've added attention to Abby Diol, plaintiff to Adam, representative of opponent Stephen, and defendant being Adam Brown, other representative being Adrian Francis, plaintiff and representative of opponent also respectively. There are different types that we have. Obviously, there are two plaintiffs here, there are two respective opponents over here, and there are other representative and defendants and attention. So Jonathan Form has these many additional parties involved in here. And when you go into, let's say, any sort of client-facing document, let's say, other than client intake, I want to do a conflict screening, download it. You'll see how first contacts, conflict screening, all the details, conflict search information for all of those additional parties are done over here. Okay. And if there's anything further, that's why I said some of them are fillable. Some of them are populated automatically. So if you want to enter any notes, you can enter the notes here. If you want to enter job title, you can enter that here. And, these are fillable PDFs that gets downloaded. So feel free to use all those information and fields that you want to complete the form. Okay, so if there's no conflict, you can click on no conflict. That is the search result. Obviously, you'll be running a conflict check for each of these clients and additional parties as well from the contact. I hope all of you know how to do the conflict check. You go into contacts, you go into each of the contacts, click on them, including the additional party, click on action and do a conflict check. Okay. So upon completing conflict check, obviously some of them, like I said, is populated automatically. Some of them are not, the information is not populated automatically. So in that case, you can manually enter them here as these are fillable PDFs. Upon completing everything at the last step, you will see it will be automatically entered in by the lawyer or paralegal's information will be provided in there. Your law office address, email, everything is populated. So just imagine you having to spend close to 15 to 20 minutes per document entering all of this in basic information, not only more complicated, but at least the basic information by itself takes you so much time to enter all those details. So it's not going to make sense, right? So it's not helping you further. If at all you've been doing all of this on your own, I say it's high time you start, exploring these options that is at least available for you within the program. And you'll start seeing the change in especially the speed and accuracy in all your forms. Other than client-facing documents, you also have some quote forms here. Let's say we take small claims, for example, since this is a small claims matter. So let's say we're doing additional parties. Over here, I say who's a plaintiff, who's the defendant, and I also enter the courthouse, right? So I enter the courthouse. I say my client is the defendant. okay? And you will then see the plaintiff, the creditor, the debtor, defendant. Then you can download and you'll see the court forms filling up with all those information of your client as defendant and the opponent as plaintiff. The forms will be entered. Hope I'm able to showcase the form to all of you. Yeah, so that's the form. So you have the plaintiff details, the defendant details, the address, phone number, goes on like that. Okay. Some of them are entered. If you have more plaintiff, more defendants, they will keep entering automatically as well. Now, other than that, let's say you want to go and see an LTB or a POA, anything else. Let's say you go into an LTB, tenant eviction due to rent, non-payment of rent. So you know Jonathan is the landlord here because Emma Brown has been entered as a tenant and representative of opponent has been entered as Stephen. And of course, this one is marked as archive. So I'm going to click on mark as, active the file. And you're going to see that when I go into court forms, LTB, application for tenant eviction, and download, you'll see that Jonathan being the landlord, his information will be filled out in the landlord, and Emma Brown being the tenant, her information getting filled out under that as well. So ideally, if the additional parties are entered in the right boxes, you'll see them getting populated here automatically. Just have to make sure that the details are entered under additional parties in order to have them filled out. All right, so quickly shifting here to show you all a SAT matter, maybe a neck injury here. Yeah, this one has obviously your insurance adjuster, chiropractor, let's say, decision maker. This will obviously have a lot of these transactions, such as, there's a settlement payment that's come in, settlement payment that's gone out. So you will need to have to, let's say, invoice to party will be different, etc. So you need to have all the additional parties, especially entered in here, and based on that, you can do your, let's say you will be able to do all of your forms pretty easily. So over here, let's say minor injury treatment discharge report. This is something you want to provide to the insurance adjuster from the chiropractor. So you can just download this, have some of the information filled out. So you see, the insurance company's details comes up automatically, Bel Air Insurance, and then Jonathan's details also gets populated automatically. Some of them you might have to enter automatically, you might have to enter manually, and then you can print or save, or you can then reset the information to give it to the insurance adjuster too. Based on that, you also have other information in the part 3. Health practitioner needs to sign and other things. You can probably enter that as well. Some of them, like I said, gets filled out. Some of them needs to be entered in. So since it's a fillable PDF, you'll be able to do that more easily, as partially it's been already done. So anyway, so coming back to it, as one of the major topics of today's session being forms automation, it's very important to understand how you can play around with this additional parties. So understanding who are these people, understanding how you'll be able to, relate to them under each file, and generating those respective documents to bring them under code forms or client-facing documents or even your financial documents, records, etc. So let's say, for an example, what about financial documents automation? So I don't know how many of you have a trust account attending this call here today. So trust account, when you have a trust account, okay, by the way, I'm moving from code forms automation to other forms automation, other financial forms automation over here. And while talking about other financial forms automation, one major thing that strikes to me is that Form 9A. And the Form 9A is something that is probably something that many of them use if you're in Ontario and if you have a trust account and if you transfer money electronically from periodical time to time, at least on a weekly basis, if not on a daily basis. So it's pretty difficult to go and enter each of information from your bank records, right? So this is why we say that it's very important to have your information recorded in here. So if you all see here on my screen, the nickname is where I've entered my bank name, followed by my bank account number, followed by my bank address. So these are the information that's typically needed on your Form 9A. So now if I go to compliance and monthly compliance and download a Form 9A, let's say for the quarterly date range, and download it. So you'll actually see if there was any transfers made, you'll actually see Form 9A getting downloaded with all the information. So the last transaction that was made here was on December 22nd, 2022. There's a trust transfer. Let's say I click on this and I click on Form 9A download. All that I have to do is simply click on download. You see that the requisition number is already entered, date, the trust account number, debit, bank address grid. All of this is auto-populated only because I have already entered the nicknames under each of those bank accounts, which is my trust account and general account in this case. And of course, I've entered my requisition number in the field where you're required to enter it. So now if you click on this tiny little dollar symbol, it'll pop up the trust transfer screen. And once you click on the checkbox, it'll allow you to unlock, make changes and other things. And over here, you'll see Form 9A download, which will automatically help you download the Form 9A. Okay. And now when you download a Form 9A, you'll all see how it looks. Otherwise, it's automated completely. Of course, your signature needs to be entered in. And your person entering details of transfer, authorizing at the computer terminal, there's all of these signatures that needs to be handled. But other than that, you're left with nothing but, a pure Law Society compliant form that is needed to be submitted. Otherwise, you're going to be going over each and every tab, filling them manually. So the secret behind getting them at one finger click button is having your nickname for pool trust account and of course your general account somewhere here, if I'm not wrong, this one. So entered in properly, and of course your requisition number of transfer have to be entered as well. And when you generate this form, it'll be automatically generated. So as part of the forms automation that we were talking about, which is Form 9A or deposit slip or even intermatter trust transfer for that reason, if I click on compliance, monthly compliance, there's something called intermatter trust transfer. If at all I've done anything, let's say I want to do an intermatter trust transfer over here. So let's say I have because this has several matters for Jonathan. So let's say from neck injury, I received a payment. So I get a deposit into trust. So other payment deposit or a settlement payment deposit, whatever I get in here. So let's say about $10,000, and I put them into make everything. If you have several matters, it gets auto distributed. So make sure it goes into only one matter, which is all your maybe small things. See if it's not active. Neck injury, which is right here. So I'm going to put 10,000 under this, make it 0. So right now this account has $10,000 in there. Okay. So now I'd like to move this from neck injury to small claims and at least a partial amount. So how do I do it? So let's say withdraw from trust, because obviously I'm withdrawing from trust. I'm putting 5,000 out of the settlement payment as intermatter trust transfer into my intermatter account. Okay. And I say pay to maybe small claims, just for my internal understanding. Click on payments and it'll probably show me the other screen where I can make the deposit. So in receive from neck injury, I'd say make everything 0. Okay. I'll put 5,000 under only one matter, which is small claims defendant. So the first one, I'll put 5,000. The rest all I make 0. Okay. And I apply it. So now, if you see, I've done an intermatter trust transfer. Okay, so I got 10,000 into neck injury, of which I have 5,000 here, and 5,000 I did an intermatter trust transfer and put it under small claims. Now, if I go in here, there's a $5,000 trust receipt. Now, why I was showing all this right now is when I go to accounts, when I go to compliance, monthly compliance, and I click on intermatter trust transfer, let's say for today's date, download this, you'll actually see that it gets populated automatically with all the details for the transfer that I made from one to the other. I was just expecting not. There's too many documents open here, so excuse me for a second. Okay, so let's go back in here. I just got it downloaded, Intermatter Trust Transfer. So this is the one. And you see how it's auto-populated within few minutes or seconds, depending upon how many matters you have and how you're transferring it between the matters. Now, this is the level of automation that you require in order to save time and do your business more efficiently. So I request all of you to give it a shot to see how you're able to save time by using automated forms, whether it's code forms or whether it's client-facing documents like, client intake forms, ID verification, conflict screening, any other documents, right? There's so many of them that are client-facing documents, or also, use your deposit slips. There's so many of them that can be done as part of, automation. So you just have to make sure that you're able to bring in that information, provide us inputs, so we could give you the outputs that can be automated easily. And in very recent times, I think it's been over a year and a half or 2 years, more than that, in fact. Somewhere in 2021, we had launched a new feature where you can automate your own forms. Like, for example, we don't force you to use our retainer letters. We don't force you to use our, client ID verifications or anything. So you can have your own forms, but for which is one thing you have to do is obviously have your form presented by some characters or tags that is provided by uLaw. So if you all go to any matter, take any matter for an example, go to letters and just simply type generic tags. So this is what uLaw has created. It's called uLaw generic forms tags. So over here, this has ways to automate your own form. So first of all, you need to have an Acrobat PDF for this. And second thing is that you need to open the file that you want to modify in that Acrobat PDF. And then I think somewhere here is prepare form. So if you go to the bottom, you'll be able to click on prepare form. I think, unfortunately, mine doesn't have prepare form over here. But yeah, so you need to have a Acrobat PDF, like I said, and you need to have prepare form or edit form. Then you'll be able to see that, you can actually add in these generic tags. And when you go into each of these, you'll be able to see all of these details automatically populated. Now, I went into Jonathan form and did this. Hence, I was able to, download with all the respective information. And what are those respective information? They're nothing but each of those line items carries a tag. So you have uLaw.client.firstname for Jonathan, uLaw.client.lastname for form. Likewise, uLaw.client. Home street name, home city. So you have all of those attribute tags. You also have additional party tags. So you need to first find out who's the additional party. Is it somebody else? Is it your client, or is it an opponent party? Or you need to figure out what is this form, what are the fields that are there in this form, and accordingly you take it into a Acrobat PDF, click on prepare form, and you can actually drag and drop these text fields. If you go into any matter and go into letters and download the generic form tags that we just downloaded, which will look like this. Ignore the first page, go to the second page. You have some steps on how you can do it. Open the form in Acrobat, then you start to select those fields that you want to add the tags to. Then you can actually look into those generic form tags in the third page and enter all of those. Then in the fourth page, you see there's an example here. Because I was in Jonathan form, I was able to do this. Now, you can actually make changes to this and upload it as per your wish, and go into any other contact simply. And let's say I'm in Adam Brown. Now I'm in Adam Brown matter, and I'm over here, and inside this, let's say I'm trying to download a form, and this will come up with Adam Brown's details on the third page. If you see that, it has Adam Brown. So the last time I had Jonathan form because I downloaded from Jonathan form. And this time I have Adam Brown with the file name, the details of client, and other things. So this is absolutely, it's totally versatile. First of all, you can play around with it. You can play around with the tags. That's why we say it is to customize your own forms. You're not obligated to use certain fields. You're not obligated to, stick to certain things. Of course, we have the tags. We have provided you with the tags. The tags could be limited, but definitely, we could be getting more tags in future. I'm not saying these are just the tags. We are hoping to have more tags in future. And whatever are the tags we have right now, you're welcome to try using all of those tags. and see how it works on your forms, whether it's a retainer for letter, or whether it's a quote form, or whether it's a generic form that you want to have. You can automate them. And all that you have to do is, if you have one copy, you can literally go into any matter, go into document generation, go into generic form, then you can upload what you have, right? And you can download the specific form. I mean, if it has just the generic form, it will come up with the tags, okay? So it will come up with all those tags, and you will be able to automate the forms as per your wish. So as part of today's webinar, we wanted to share these. I know it's a smaller topic, but these are some things we wanted to share. So to understand or to go over the webinar once again in crux. So the basics, I think the fundamentals that you need to understand here is that when you take any form, could be a simple contact related form or a code form, you have to understand, first of all, who is your client. You're representing a defendant or a plaintiff or a landlord or a tenant or maybe an insurance company or a SABS file. You have to understand who is it that you're representing, and understand the concept of additional party. Add them all, and once you add them all, you'll be able to streamline things, and you'll be able to automate and generate more documents. And obviously, it adds value to your business. I think it's going to be all clear over here, which will in turn reduce your intervention to add in information, especially on financial forms like Form 9A and Intermittent trust transfer, and have them all updated from time to time. Now, for the ones who are not using this, I highly recommend you to start using this feature, which is automate your code forms, and not just code forms, any other forms that we discussed today, all the other forms too. So for the ones attending today's webinar and you're not a uLaw user, I request you to sign up for a free 30-day trial from our website, uLaw.io. And if you have friends, please feel free to refer them. Steph will be sharing more links, and we'll be happy to, provide with more details if you want to reach out to us on info@uLawPractice.com or support@uLawPractice.com. And other than that, any questions anytime. If you're all looking for more suggestions on more forms that could be automated, and also probably have more things on, let's say, you're looking for other forms that could be uploaded, more generic tags, give us more suggestions so we can find out whether these are some things that we can probably bring into our system in future. But at least start using what is available from the available tags. Very important is to download this generic form tags that you can use for any sort of document to automate, and use your own form. So that way, save a lot of time than manually entering all the details yourself. Because I know as a sole practitioner or a small office, there's not many people who's going to be working in your office. So that way, please have everything entered in there, and use the automate forms to probably save a lot of your time. All right, so I think we have come to the end of the webinar. As I mentioned, it's a slightly smaller webinar today. For the ones who are attending first time, thank you so much for joining in. But today's webinar is one of the smallest, so please don't judge us by that. I request you to join us the next week. There will be a CPD session for sure. And the topic will be entered on our webinar platform. If you're all used to having if you're all registered, great. If you have not registered, I request you to register using the first name, last name, your email address, and other things. We'll be having more new topics entered here. I think we have topics only till, this week, and we'll be having more coming up next week. So we have one topic next week over here for June 2nd, as I mentioned already. It's a CPD, so we have CPD Gets Ready for Law Society Audits. That's the next topic. So kindly make sure to note it down, and we'll be starting sharp at 2 p.m. And I'm hoping from June there's going to be no delay in sending these reminder emails. Nevertheless, I request you to register here so that you'll get timely emails, and we can avoid the delays in future too. Thank you so much. We'll have a new schedule for summer post-June by next week for all of you to review, and more suggestions, they're welcome. Steph is sharing more links. So to the viewers who are all interested in payment integrations, there's a small announcement. uLawPay has announced a $150 credit for the ones joining within the next 45 to 60 days. I think the offer is valid till end of July. So I request all of you to take a look at it. So it's from May 2nd to August 2nd. So request all of you to, register using the link over there, and the concerned team will be contacting you. There are other links, refer a friend, our Instagram links, our Facebook links, our EDU programs. I request all of you to follow us on YouTube and other social media sites, so they'll all be more helpful for you to learn how to use uLaw better. And for the ones who are already following us, thank you so much. It's our pleasure talking to you every Friday. Until next Friday, thank you so much for being there. This webinar recording will be available as early as Monday, and the next week is the CPD. Look forward to seeing all of you there. Let's get ready for Law Society audits. I think it's time. We all know about it as we've submitted all the annual reports, so there could be an audit anytime. So please don't miss. We'll be discussing the process of the audit, how to prepare, practice review, the documents that you need to have handy, and many, many other things. So it's going to be super interesting, so please don't miss it. And until next week, thank you all. Take care. Have a nice weekend.